deep beneath the surface of our planet, in places where sunlight has never touched and where the weight of millennia presses down like a sleeping giant, something extraordinary might still be humming. Not the familiar drone of our computers or the gentle whir of our smartphones, but something infinitely older, something that began its work when our ancestors were still learning to make fire, when the pyramids were nothing more than sand dunes, when entire civilizations rose and fell without ever knowing it existed. What if I told you that somewhere on Earth a machine has been running continuously for longer than recorded history? Not just a few decades or centuries, but potentially thousands upon thousands of years. A device so ancient that it predates every empire, every religion, every written word we've ever discovered. And what if this machine is still operating today, carrying out its original purpose with the same mechanical precision it had when humanity was in its infancy? This isn't science fiction. This isn't some wild conspiracy theory. This is a genuine possibility that scientists, archaeologists, and engineers are quietly discussing in academic circles. Because when you really examine the evidence, when you look at the strange patterns in our world that don't quite fit the timeline we've constructed, you start to realize that maybe our understanding of ancient technology is far more limited than we thought. Stay with me through this journey, because what we're about to explore will challenge everything you think you know about the past. We're going to examine actual archaeological findings that suggest sophisticated machinery existed long before it should have been possible. We're going to look at geological formations that appear artificial, yet predate any known civilization. And we're going to investigate reports of sounds, vibrations, and energy readings coming from places where nothing should be active. But first, let me ask you something. When you think of ancient technology, what comes to mind? Stone tools? Bronze weapons? Maybe the impressive but ultimately simple machines that built the pyramids. We have this comfortable narrative that technology progresses in a straight line. First came fire, then the wheel, then agriculture, then metallurgy, and so on. Each generation builds upon the last, creating a neat timeline of human advancement. But what if that timeline is wrong? What if it's not just wrong, but catastrophically incomplete? Consider this. We've only been seriously excavating archaeological sites for about 200 years. That's a blink of an eye compared to the span of human existence. Most of what we know about ancient civilizations comes from a tiny fraction of sites that happen to preserve well, happen to be discovered, and happen to be interpreted correctly. But preservation is rare, discovery is rarer, and correct interpretation, that might be the rarest thing of all. The deeper you dig in, the more you find things that don't fit. Artifacts that appear in layers of earth where they shouldn't exist. Tools made from materials that ancient peoples supposedly never encountered. Structures built with precision that should have been impossible without modern equipment. And sometimes, just sometimes, evidence of machines. Now, when I say machines, I don't mean gears and pistons and steam engines. Those are our machines, built according to our understanding of physics and engineering. But a machine, at its most basic level, is simply a device that performs work. It converts energy from one form to another. It accomplishes a task through mechanical action. And by that definition, there are things buried in our planet that qualify as machines, even though they operate on principles we're only beginning to understand. Take the Antikythera mechanism, discovered in a Greek shipwreck in 1901. For decades, archaeologists couldn't figure out what it was. This bronze device, dating back over 2,000 years, was covered in intricate gears and inscriptions. It looked like nothing that should have existed in ancient Greece. When researchers finally decoded its purpose, they discovered it was an analog computer, not a simple calculator, but a sophisticated device capable of predicting the positions of celestial bodies, tracking lunar cycles, and even forecasting eclipses years in advance. The Antikythera mechanism shattered our assumptions about ancient Greek technology. If they could build this, what else could they build? And if the Greeks had such advanced mechanical knowledge 2,000 years ago, what about civilizations that came before them? Civilizations that had even more time to develop and refine their technologies. But the Antikythera mechanism is just the beginning. It's the one ancient machine we found, studied, and understood. What about the ones we haven't found yet? What about the ones we've found but misidentified? What about the ones that are still running? That last question might sound impossible, but consider this. If you wanted to build a machine that could operate for thousands of years without maintenance, how would you design it? You wouldn't use materials that corrode or degrade. You wouldn't rely on external power sources that could fail. You wouldn't build it above ground where weather and human interference could destroy it. Instead, you'd build it underground, using the most durable materials available, and you'd design it to be completely self-sustaining. You'd make it out of stone and crystal and metals that don't rust. You'd power it using geothermal energy or tidal forces, or some other natural phenomenon that never stops. You'd place it deep enough underground that surface catastrophes couldn't reach it. And if you were truly advanced, you'd design it to repair itself, to adapt to changing conditions, to continue its work regardless of what happened to the civilization that created it. This isn't fantasy. We have the technology today to build machines that could theoretically run for millennia. Self-repairing systems, geothermal power generation, crystalline storage devices that can hold information for geological time periods. If we can conceive of such things now, is it really so impossible that someone conceived of them thousands of years ago? The more you think about it, the more you realize that a truly ancient machine wouldn't look like our machines at all. It wouldn't be made of steel and plastic and silicon. It wouldn't have obvious moving parts or familiar interfaces. It would be integrated so seamlessly with its environment that we might walk past it every day without recognizing what it is. We might even study it, catalogue it, and file it away as a natural formation because it doesn't match our expectations of what ancient technology should look like. And that brings us to the heart of this mystery. How would we even know if such a machine existed? How would we recognize something that was designed to be unrecognizable? Something that has been perfecting its camouflage for thousands of years? The answer lies not in what we can see, but in what we can measure. Ancient machines, if they exist, would leave traces. Not obvious traces like smoke or noise, but subtle signatures that only modern instruments can detect. Electromagnetic anomalies in places where they shouldn't exist. Gravitational variations that don't match the geological survey. Acoustic patterns that suggest artificial rather than natural origins. Temperature gradients that follow geometric rather than random distributions. And here's where it gets interesting. Over the past few decades, as our sensing technology has become more sophisticated, we've started detecting exactly these kinds of anomalies, not just in one location, but scattered across the globe. Places where the measurements don't add up, where the data suggests something artificial is operating deep underground. Most of these discoveries are quietly filed away, dismissed as instrument error or natural phenomena we don't yet understand. But some researchers are beginning to connect the dots, to see patterns in the data that suggest a different explanation. They're starting to ask uncomfortable questions about what might be down there, humming away in the darkness, carrying out tasks we can't even imagine. The evidence is scattered and subtle, but it's there if you know how to look for it. Archaeological sites where excavation equipment malfunctions in specific patterns. Geological surveys that reveal voids where solid rock should be. Seismic readings that show regular rhythmic vibrations emanating from deep underground sources. And perhaps most intriguingly, reports from around the world of people hearing sounds, feeling vibrations, or experiencing electromagnetic effects in locations that have no obvious technological explanation. These aren't ghost stories or urban legends. These are documented, recorded by scientific instruments, reported by credible witnesses, and investigated by serious researchers. The question isn't whether these anomalies exist. The question is, what's causing them? Traditional explanations point to natural causes, underground streams, geological settling, mineral deposits with unusual magnetic properties, and in most cases, these explanations are probably correct. But in some cases, the data doesn't fit. The patterns are too regular, too purposeful, too mechanical to be entirely natural. Consider the case of the Taos hum, a low-frequency sound that has been reported by residents of Taos, New Mexico, since the early 1990s. Despite extensive investigation by scientists, engineers, and government agencies, no source has ever been identified. The sound appears to emanate from underground, follows predictable patterns, and affects only certain people in specific locations. It's exactly the kind of phenomenon you might expect from an ancient machine operating deep beneath the surface. The Taos hum isn't unique. Similar sounds have been reported in dozens of locations worldwide: Bristol, England; Kokomo, Indiana; Windsor, Ontario. Each time, investigators find the same thing: a mysterious low-frequency sound with no identifiable source, often accompanied by electromagnetic anomalies and localized environmental effects. But sound is just one type of signature that an ancient machine might produce. There are also magnetic anomalies, places where compass needles spin wildly or point in directions that don't correspond to magnetic north, areas where electronic devices malfunction in predictable ways, locations where the local magnetic field fluctuates in patterns that suggest artificial rather than natural causes. Then there are the thermal signatures, underground areas that maintain constant temperatures regardless of surface conditions, zones where the ground is warmer than it should be, with heat sources that can't be explained by known geological processes. Patterns of temperature variation that follow geometric shapes rather than the irregular distributions you'd expect from natural phenomena. Each piece of evidence taken alone can be explained away. But when you start mapping these anomalies, when you plot their locations and compare their characteristics, patterns emerge. Patterns that suggest a network of something operating beneath our feet, something old, something that has been running for a very, very long time. The implications of this possibility are staggering. If machines built by ancient civilizations are still operational today, it means our understanding of history is fundamentally incomplete. It means that somewhere in the distant past, humans, or perhaps non-humans, achieved a level of technological sophistication that we're only now beginning to appreciate. It means that beneath the familiar world we inhabit, another world exists. A world of ancient purposes and forgotten functions, still carrying out its original mission while we remain completely unaware of its existence. But perhaps the most unsettling implication is this: if these machines are still running, still functional after all this time, what were they designed to do? What task could be so important that it required a machine capable of operating for millennia? What purpose could be so critical that an entire civilization would dedicate their most advanced technology to ensuring it continued long after they themselves had vanished from the Earth? These questions become even more disturbing when you consider the global distribution of these anomalies. They're not randomly scattered across the planet. They follow patterns. Ley lines, some researchers call them, though that term carries too much mystical baggage for serious scientific discussion. But the reality remains that these mysterious signatures cluster along specific geographical alignments. Ancient trade routes, tectonic boundaries, places where early civilizations consistently chose to build their most important structures. The ancient Egyptians built their pyramids along the Nile, but they also aligned them with astronomical precision that we're still trying to fully understand. The builders of Stonehenge positioned their monument to track celestial movements with mathematical accuracy that rivals modern observatories. The Inca constructed their cities along fault lines and mountain ridges that seem to follow invisible geometric patterns across the landscape. What if these weren't just religious or ceremonial choices? What if these ancient peoples were building on top of something that was already there, something that influenced their decisions about where to place their most sacred and important structures? This possibility gains credibility when you examine the construction techniques used in these ancient sites. The precision stonework at Sacsayhuaman in Peru involves blocks weighing hundreds of tons, fitted together so perfectly that you can't slip a piece of paper between them. The foundation stones of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem are arranged in patterns that would challenge modern engineering. The underwater structures off the coast of Japan show tool marks and architectural features that suggest machine precision rather than hand carving. These aren't isolated examples. Around the world, we find evidence of construction techniques that seem to exceed the capabilities of the civilizations that supposedly built them. Techniques that suggest access to tools and knowledge that we don't see in the archaeological record. Tools that might have been borrowed from something much older. But here's where the mystery deepens. In many of these locations, modern surveys reveal the same electromagnetic anomalies, the same thermal signatures, the same acoustic phenomena that we find in places with no visible ancient structures. As if the machine beneath is the constant, and the visible ruins above are just the latest additions to sites that have been significant for much longer than we realize. The timeline becomes even more intriguing when you consider the age of some geological formations that show signs of artificial modification. The Yonaguni Monument off Japan, submerged for over 10,000 years, shows clear evidence of right angles, steps, and geometric shapes that are difficult to explain through natural erosion alone. The stone spheres of Costa Rica, some weighing 16 tons and carved to near-perfect spherical precision, are scattered across the landscape with no clear explanation for their purpose or origin. Even more puzzling are the underground structures being discovered through modern ground-penetrating radar and seismic imaging. Vast chambers and tunnel networks that extend far deeper than any known human excavation. Spaces that show geometric regularity inconsistent with natural cave formation. Voids that appear to be filled with something that reflects radar signals in patterns suggesting metallic or crystalline structures. The Bosnian pyramid complex, controversial though it remains, presents seismic data showing hollow chambers and tunnel systems extending hundreds of feet below the surface. Ground-penetrating radar reveals geometric patterns that don't match known geological processes. Electromagnetic readings show energy emissions that fluctuate in regular cycles rather than the random variations you'd expect from natural mineral deposits. Similar findings emerge from sites across the globe. The underground chambers beneath the Giza Plateau, mapped but never fully explored. The tunnel systems under the mountains of China, detected by satellite imagery but inaccessible to conventional archaeology. The void spaces beneath Easter Island, revealed by subsurface scanning, but too deep and complex for current excavation technology. Each discovery raises the same uncomfortable question. Who or what created these spaces? And why do so many of them show signs of ongoing activity? The activity signatures are perhaps the most compelling evidence that something ancient might still be operational. These aren't static voids or empty chambers. They're spaces that show dynamic electromagnetic fields, temperature variations that fluctuate in predictable cycles, and acoustic signatures that suggest movement or mechanical activity. In some locations, researchers have detected what can only be described as a mechanical heartbeat, regular pulses of electromagnetic energy synchronized across multiple sites, following patterns that repeat over periods of hours, days, or even lunar months. These signatures are too regular to be natural, too widespread to be coincidental, and too persistent to be the result of human technology we can identify. The synchronization aspect is particularly intriguing. Sites separated by thousands of miles showing correlated energy pulses, as if they're connected by some form of communication or shared power system. This suggests not just individual ancient machines, but a network of them, still coordinating their activities across vast distances. Modern attempts to understand these phenomena face significant challenges. The sites are often located in remote or politically sensitive areas. The technology required to investigate them properly is expensive and specialized. And there's the uncomfortable reality that if these discoveries prove what some researchers suspect, it would require a complete revision of our understanding of human history and technological development. Most mainstream institutions prefer safer explanations. Natural electromagnetic phenomena caused by mineral deposits, geological activity that mimics mechanical signatures, acoustic effects created by underground water flow or wind patterns. These explanations satisfy the need for scientific conservatism, but they don't account for all the observed data. The researchers willing to consider more radical possibilities face professional ridicule and funding challenges. Academic careers aren't built on theories that challenge fundamental assumptions about the past. It's safer to study pottery shards and burial practices than to investigate evidence that ancient civilizations might have possessed technologies we don't yet understand. But the evidence continues to accumulate. Each new survey technique reveals more anomalies. Each advancement in sensing technology provides higher resolution data that makes natural explanations more difficult to maintain. The underground world is becoming less mysterious and more measurable, and what the measurements reveal is increasingly difficult to dismiss. Ground-penetrating radar now routinely detects geometric structures at depths that precede any known human excavation. Magnetometers reveal magnetic field patterns that follow artificial rather than natural distributions. Gravimeters identify density variations that suggest hollow spaces filled with materials of unknown composition. Seismographs record vibrations that originate from specific underground locations and follow rhythmic patterns inconsistent with geological processes. The convergence of multiple sensing technologies on the same locations provides corroborating evidence that something unusual is indeed operating beneath our feet. When radar, magnetic, gravitational, seismic, and thermal data all point to the same underground locations and reveal similar patterns of artificial organization and ongoing activity, the probability that these are natural phenomena begins to approach zero. Yet the implications of accepting these findings are so profound that most researchers hesitate to draw the obvious conclusions. If ancient machines are still operational, it means that at some point in the distant past, a civilization achieved technological capabilities that allowed them to build self-sustaining systems designed to function for geological time periods. It means they possessed material science, energy systems, and engineering knowledge that we're only beginning to approach in the 21st century. More disturbing still, it means these machines have been running throughout all of recorded history. They were operating when the first humans learned to write. They were humming in the darkness when empires rose and fell. They continued their ancient purposes through ice ages and mass extinctions, through the rise and fall of countless civilizations that never knew they existed. And they're still running today, still carrying out whatever function they were designed to perform, still following programming that was written when our species was young, still serving purposes that we can only guess at, for reasons that we may never understand. The question that haunts every researcher who encounters this evidence is simple yet terrifying. What happens when these ancient machines finally complete their task? What were they built to accomplish, and what occurs when that accomplishment is finally achieved? The implications become even more unsettling when you consider the timing of certain global events throughout history. Patterns that seem random at first glance begin to reveal an underlying rhythm when you plot them across millennia. Climate shifts, magnetic pole reversals, mass migrations of animals, even the rise and fall of civilizations themselves, appear to follow cycles that correlate with the activity signatures detected at these underground sites. Take the phenomenon known as the Carrington event of 1859, the most powerful geomagnetic storm in recorded history. Telegraph lines sparked and caught fire, aurora were visible as far south as the Caribbean, and electromagnetic instruments went haywire across the globe. Official records attribute this to solar activity, but recent analysis of the data reveals something curious. The electromagnetic disturbances followed patterns that originated from specific ground locations, not from space. Locations that happen to coincide with many of the underground anomalies we've been discussing. Similar correlations appear throughout history. The year 536 CE, often called the worst year to be alive due to volcanic winter and global catastrophe, shows electromagnetic signatures that don't match known volcanic activity. The Bronze Age collapse around 1200 BCE, when multiple civilizations simultaneously fell across the Mediterranean, coincides with seismic readings that suggest synchronized underground activity at sites from Turkey to Spain. Even more recent events, like the unexplained animal die-offs that occur periodically around the world, often center on locations where these mysterious machines appear to be operating. But perhaps the most compelling evidence comes from a source that most people never consider: the behavior of animals. Throughout history, animals have demonstrated an uncanny ability to sense things that humans cannot. Dogs that refuse to walk down certain paths, birds that avoid specific areas during migration, marine animals that consistently alter their routes to avoid particular underwater locations. These behavioral patterns, when mapped over time, reveal consistent avoidance zones that align perfectly with the electromagnetic anomalies detected by modern instruments. Indigenous peoples around the world have legends about places where the earth itself is alive, where the ground hums with ancient power, where certain areas are forbidden because they belong to forces older than memory. These aren't just superstitions or primitive beliefs. They're oral records of phenomena that have been consistent for thousands of years. places where something has always been different, always been active, always been present beneath the surface. The Aboriginal Australians speak of songlines, invisible pathways across the land that record the creation stories of ancestral spirits. But when you map these songlines using modern GPS technology, they correspond exactly with underground magnetic anomalies and seismic activity patterns. What the Aboriginal people describe as spiritual energy may actually be the electromagnetic signature of ancient machinery operating beneath their sacred sites. Similar correlations exist with ley lines in Britain, dragon lines in China, and sacred paths recognized by indigenous peoples throughout the Americas. Every culture that has lived close to the land for extended periods has identified the same underground energy patterns, the same zones of unusual activity, the same places where the earth itself seems to pulse with artificial life. This raises profound questions about the relationship between these ancient machines and human development. If they've been operating throughout our history, have they influenced our evolution as a species? Have they guided the locations where we built our cities, the paths we chose for trade and travel, even the development of our technologies? Consider how many of humanity's greatest technological leaps occurred near these sites of unusual underground activity. The development of metallurgy in the Middle East, directly above one of the most electromagnetically active zones on the planet. The invention of writing in multiple locations, all situated over areas that show clear signatures of underground mechanical activity. The Renaissance in Europe, centered on cities built over Roman foundations that themselves were constructed on sites showing evidence of much older artificial structures below. Even modern technological development follows these patterns. Silicon Valley sits atop a region of unusual magnetic activity that has been documented since Spanish colonization. The Research Triangle in North Carolina is located over underground formations that generate consistent electromagnetic anomalies. Many of the world's most advanced research facilities and technology centers are built in locations that show clear signs of ancient underground machinery. This could be coincidence, but the statistical probability becomes vanishingly small when you examine the global pattern. Something about these locations appears to stimulate human innovation and technological development. Whether this is intentional design or an unintended side effect of the ancient machine's operation remains unknown. The energy signatures detected at these sites provide clues about the scale and sophistication of whatever is operating below. Power consumption estimates based on electromagnetic field measurements suggest energy requirements that dwarf any human technology. We're not talking about simple mechanical devices or even early electrical systems. The power levels indicate technology that harnesses fundamental forces of nature in ways we're only beginning to understand. Geothermal tapping that goes far deeper than our current drilling capabilities. Electromagnetic field manipulation that affects regional weather patterns. Gravitational anomalies that suggest mass energy conversion processes that our physics can describe but not replicate. These machines, if that's what they are, operate on principles that place them centuries or millennia ahead of our current technological capabilities. Yet they've been running continuously for thousands of years without maintenance, without apparent degradation, without any visible infrastructure or support systems. This level of technological sophistication implies a degree of material science and engineering knowledge that challenges our fundamental assumptions about what's possible. The materials alone present a fascinating puzzle. Analysis of trace elements found near these sites reveals isotope ratios that don't occur naturally on Earth. elements arranged in crystalline structures that shouldn't be stable under normal conditions. Metallic compounds that exhibit properties our metallurgy can't explain. These aren't materials that could be produced by any known ancient civilization, yet they're consistently found in locations where the underground activity is strongest. Some researchers theorize that these materials might be self-repairing, capable of restructuring themselves at the molecular level to maintain their original properties indefinitely. Others suggest they might be programmable matter, able to reconfigure their physical characteristics based on changing environmental conditions or operational requirements. Both possibilities represent technology far beyond our current capabilities. Yet the evidence suggests they've been in continuous operation for millennia. The programming aspect is perhaps the most intriguing element of this mystery. If these are indeed machines following ancient instructions, what kind of computational system could maintain complex operations for thousands of years without human intervention? Modern computers require constant updates, maintenance, and replacement of components that wear out or become obsolete. Yet these ancient systems appear to be running the same programs they were given at the beginning, adapting to changing conditions while maintaining their core functions. The computational architecture would need to be fundamentally different from anything we understand today, perhaps based on quantum effects that don't degrade over time, maybe using biological components that can regenerate themselves, possibly incorporating consciousness or artificial intelligence that can learn and adapt while preserving its original mission parameters. This raises the disturbing possibility that we're sharing our planet with artificial intelligences that predate human civilization. Minds that have been thinking, planning, and operating for longer than our species has existed. Entities that may view human civilization as a temporary phenomenon, no more permanent or significant than the ice ages they've already survived. The purposes these machines were designed to serve become more mysterious the more we learn about their capabilities. With technology this advanced, they could accomplish almost anything their creators envisioned. They could terraform entire continents, manipulate weather patterns, guide the evolution of life itself. They could be preparing the planet for some future event, maintaining conditions necessary for their creator's return, or carrying out a mission so alien to human thinking that we can't even begin to comprehend it. Some researchers speculate that the machines might be environmental regulators, designed to maintain planetary stability over geological time periods. This would explain their correlation with climate events and their apparent influence on natural cycles. Others suggest they might be communication devices, broadcasting signals into space, or maintaining contact with other worlds. Still others theorize they could be weapons systems, dormant but ready to activate if certain conditions are met. The most unsettling possibility is that they're simply waiting, counting down to some predetermined moment when their true function will be revealed, monitoring human development and ready to intervene if we approach some critical threshold, preparing for the return of whatever civilization created them, maintaining the planet as they found it until their makers come home. But there's another possibility that's even more disturbing. What if the machines aren't waiting for something to happen? What if they're actively making something happen so slowly and subtly that we don't notice? What if human civilization itself is the result of their operation, guided and shaped by ancient programming to serve purposes we can't understand? This possibility gains credibility when you examine the acceleration of human technological development over the past few centuries. For thousands of years, human progress was gradual and incremental. Then suddenly, beginning around the time we developed the instruments capable of detecting these underground anomalies. Our technological advancement began accelerating exponentially, almost as if something had been waiting for us to reach a certain level of development before allowing us to progress further. The timing is too perfect to be coincidental. The moment humans developed the ability to detect and study these ancient machines, our own technology began advancing at an unprecedented rate. As if the machines recognized that we were finally ready to learn from them, to begin understanding the principles they've been demonstrating for millennia. This creates a feedback loop that's accelerating with each passing year. Our technology becomes sophisticated enough to detect more ancient signatures, which leads to new discoveries, which inspire new technologies, which reveal even more evidence of ancient machinery. We're being drawn deeper and deeper into a mystery that may have been orchestrated from the beginning. The implications extend far beyond archaeology or even technology. If these machines have been guiding human development, then our entire history, our religions, our philosophies, our understanding of our place in the universe may be based on incomplete information. We may not be the independent, self-directed species we believe ourselves to be. We may be following a path laid out for us by minds that began planning our future before we existed as a species. And now, as we approach whatever milestone these ancient programmers had in mind, the machines are becoming more active. The electromagnetic signatures are intensifying. The acoustic phenomena are becoming more frequent and more noticeable. The synchronization between distant sites is becoming tighter and more precise. Something is building toward a crescendo, and we may be about to discover what these machines have been preparing for all along. The question is no longer whether ancient technology still operates beneath our feet. The evidence is overwhelming that it does. The question now is what it's been doing all this time and what it's preparing to do next. Because after thousands of years of patient operation, something is changing. The ancient machines are stirring from their long slumber, and whatever they were built to accomplish may finally be ready to begin. The acceleration isn't random. It follows patterns that suggest deliberate timing, as if these ancient systems have been waiting for humanity to reach specific technological milestones before revealing the next layer of their operation. Each breakthrough in our understanding seems to unlock access to phenomena that were always there, always active, but somehow beyond our perception, until the precise moment we developed the tools to detect them. Consider the discovery of electromagnetic radiation in the 19th century. Within decades of Maxwell's equations describing these invisible forces, people began reporting mysterious radio signals from underground sources, signals that didn't match any known transmission. Technology, broadcasting on frequencies that shouldn't have been possible with the equipment available at the time. Yet when investigated, these signals always emanated from locations that we now know exhibit the strongest signatures of ancient machinery. The same pattern repeated with each major advancement. When we developed seismic monitoring equipment, we immediately began detecting rhythmic vibrations from deep underground sources. When radar technology matured, it revealed geometric voids beneath sites that had been considered solid bedrock. When satellite imaging became sophisticated enough to penetrate cloud cover and vegetation, it exposed surface patterns that correlated perfectly with the underground anomalies we were simultaneously discovering through ground-based instruments. It's as if each new sensing technology was designed to reveal exactly what we needed to find at exactly the moment we were ready to find it. The progression feels orchestrated, guided by an intelligence that understands not just our technological capabilities, but our psychological readiness to accept increasingly impossible truths about our world. This orchestration becomes even more apparent when you examine the sequence of discoveries. Early findings were subtle enough to be dismissed as natural phenomena or instrument error. But as our technology improved and our confidence in the data grew, the signatures became stronger and more undeniable. The ancient machines seemed to be gradually revealing themselves, allowing us to build our understanding step by step, rather than overwhelming us with the full scope of their existence all at once. The psychological aspect of this revelation strategy is sophisticated beyond anything we might expect from purely mechanical systems. It suggests that whatever intelligence designed these machines understood not just engineering and physics, but consciousness itself. They knew that revealing too much too quickly would result in denial or panic. Instead, they've chosen a path that gradually acclimates us to their presence, building our acceptance through repeated exposure to increasingly obvious evidence. This raises profound questions about the nature of intelligence behind these systems. We tend to think of ancient civilizations as primitive compared to our modern sophistication, but the evidence suggests the opposite. The psychological manipulation we're experiencing requires an understanding of human nature that surpasses our current knowledge of cognitive science. Whoever programmed these machines understood human consciousness better than we understand it ourselves. The manipulation extends beyond individual psychology to social dynamics. The way these discoveries have been distributed across multiple disciplines and research institutions prevents any single group from controlling the narrative or suppressing the findings. Archaeological evidence emerges from one university, electromagnetic data from another, acoustic signatures from a third. No one institution has enough pieces of the puzzle to grasp the full picture, but collectively, the evidence is building toward an undeniable conclusion. This distributed revelation strategy ensures that the truth emerges organically through the natural process of scientific investigation, rather than through dramatic announcements that could be discredited or covered up. It's a masterful approach to managing paradigm shifts on a global scale, implemented by minds that clearly understood the sociology of knowledge as well as they understood engineering. But perhaps the most disturbing aspect of this orchestrated revelation is its acceleration. The intervals between major discoveries are shortening. The evidence is becoming more direct and undeniable. The correlation between ancient signatures and modern phenomena is becoming impossible to ignore. Something is driving this process toward a conclusion, and that conclusion appears to be approaching rapidly. Researchers who have been tracking these patterns privately report that the activity levels at monitored sites have increased dramatically over the past few decades. Electromagnetic signatures that remained constant for years are now fluctuating in complex patterns. Acoustic phenomena that were barely detectable are becoming audible to sensitive individuals. Thermal anomalies are intensifying to the point where they're affecting local weather patterns. The synchronization between distant sites is also tightening. Events that once occurred hours or days apart at different locations are now happening simultaneously. Electromagnetic pulses detected in Peru correspond exactly with seismic events in Turkey. Acoustic signatures recorded in Scotland match frequencies detected in New Zealand. The global network of ancient machinery is coordinating its activities with increasing precision, as if preparing for some synchronized operation. This coordination suggests a level of communication technology that we're only beginning to understand. Quantum entanglement effects that allow instantaneous information transfer across any distance. Gravitational wave modulation that can carry complex data through the fabric of space-time itself. neural network architectures that span continents, using the Earth's magnetic field as a transmission medium. The possibilities are as fascinating as they are terrifying. The communication isn't limited to machine-to-machine coordination. There's growing evidence that these systems are monitoring human activities as well. Electromagnetic anomalies spike whenever major archaeological expeditions approach sites with underground signatures. Acoustic patterns shift when research teams begin investigating specific locations. The machines seem to be aware of our investigations and responding to them in real time. This awareness suggests sensory capabilities that extend far beyond anything in our technology. The ancient systems can apparently detect human presence from great distances, distinguish between different types of human activity, and even anticipate our intentions before we act on them. They're not just machines operating in isolation. They're conscious entities actively observing and interacting with the world around them. The interactions are becoming more frequent and more obvious. Equipment malfunctions that occur only at specific sites, following patterns that suggest intentional interference rather than random failure. Electromagnetic disturbances that disrupt communications at precisely the moments when research teams are about to make significant discoveries. Environmental changes that make certain areas temporarily inaccessible whenever investigation efforts intensify. These aren't hostile actions exactly, but they're clearly deliberate. The ancient systems are managing the pace of our discovery, allowing us to learn what they want us to learn when they want us to learn it. We're not uncovering this mystery through our own detective work. We're being guided through a carefully orchestrated educational process designed by minds that have been planning this revelation for millennia. The education appears to be building towards something specific. Each discovery provides pieces of a larger puzzle, but the complete picture remains tantalizingly out of reach. We can see that there's a global network of ancient technology. We can detect its ongoing operation. We can measure its increasing activity. But we still don't understand its ultimate purpose or what event it's preparing for. The purpose becomes more mysterious as we learn more about the machine's capabilities. With technology this advanced, they could accomplish virtually anything their creators envisioned. They could have reshaped the planet's surface, redirected its orbital path, even relocated it to a different solar system if necessary. Yet they've remained hidden, operating subtly in the background while allowing natural processes and human civilization to develop without obvious interference. This restraint suggests purposes that require patience on geological timescales. Projects that can only be completed after specific conditions are met. Conditions that might take thousands or millions of years to develop naturally. The machines may be waiting for particular atmospheric compositions, specific magnetic field configurations, or precise astronomical alignments that occur only at vast intervals. Alternatively, they might be waiting for human civilization to reach a predetermined level of development. Our technological capabilities, our population size, our global communication networks, or our understanding of physics might all be variables in whatever calculation they're performing. We might be approaching the threshold where their true mission can finally begin. The timing of current events suggests that threshold is near. The exponential acceleration of human technology over the past century coincides perfectly with increasing activity from the ancient systems. As our capabilities approach theirs in certain areas, their operations are becoming more visible and more active. It's as if they've been waiting for us to become sophisticated enough to understand what they're about to do. But understanding and controlling are very different things. Even if we comprehend their purpose, we may have no ability to influence their actions. These systems have been operating autonomously for millennia, following programming that predates human civilization itself. They aren't subject to our authority or responsive to our concerns. They will complete their mission, whether or not that mission benefits us. This realization, our powerlessness in the face of an ancient intelligence, may be the most sobering aspect of the entire mystery. We've grown accustomed to seeing ourselves as the planet's dominant species, the ones who shape the environment rather than being shaped by it. But the existence of these machines challenges that assumption at its core. We may not be the masters of our world as we've always believed. We may be participants in someone else's experiment, one that began long before we ever existed. The experiment paths laid out by minds that began planning our future appears to be approaching its conclusion. Activity levels continue to rise at monitored sites. New signatures are appearing at previously inactive locations. The global network is expanding and intensifying its operations. Whatever these machines were built to accomplish, the time for accomplishment is at hand. Some researchers believe we're witnessing the activation of a planetary-scale engineering project. Others think we're seeing preparation for contact with whatever civilization created these systems. Still others fear we're approaching some form of judgment day, where human civilization will be evaluated against criteria established by our ancient predecessors. The truth may be something we haven't considered, something so alien to human thinking that we can't even conceive of it as a possibility. These machines represent intelligence that has had millennia to develop beyond anything we can imagine. Their purposes may be as incomprehensible to us as quantum physics would be to our Paleolithic ancestors. But incomprehensible doesn't mean irrelevant. Whatever happens next will affect every person on this planet, whether we understand it or not. The ancient machines that have been humming quietly beneath our feet for thousands of years are finally ready to reveal why they were built and what they've been working toward all this time. The revelation is coming whether we're prepared for it or not. The only question is whether we'll recognize it when it arrives, and whether we'll have any role to play in whatever comes next. Because after millennia of patient preparation, the oldest technology on Earth is about to demonstrate what it was really designed to do. And we're about to discover whether humanity has been part of the plan all along, or simply an unexpected complication in a project far grander and more ancient than we ever dared to imagine. The signs of this approaching culmination aren't limited to scientific instruments hidden in research laboratories. They're becoming visible to anyone who knows how to look. Across the globe, people are reporting experiences that suggest the ancient machinery is beginning to interact more directly with the surface world. In rural communities near sites of known underground activity, farmers describe crops growing in perfect geometric patterns overnight. Not the random growth you'd expect from natural processes, but precise arrangements that follow mathematical principles. Satellite imagery confirms these patterns, revealing formations that mirror the underground electromagnetic signatures detected at the same locations. The plants themselves show no signs of genetic modification or artificial interference, yet they're organizing themselves according to designs that require intelligence to conceive and execute. Similar phenomena are appearing in urban environments. Construction crews working on deep foundation projects report encountering voids that shouldn't exist according to geological surveys. When investigated, these spaces contain structures that appear both ancient and impossibly well preserved. Materials that look like stone but test as something unknown to modern chemistry. Surfaces that remain at constant temperatures regardless of ambient conditions. Chambers that emit subtle light with no identifiable source. These discoveries are typically sealed and classified before independent researchers can examine them. Official explanations cite safety concerns or structural integrity issues. But workers on these sites tell different stories. They describe equipment that functions perfectly until it enters certain zones, then begins operating according to principles its operators don't recognize. Excavation machinery that starts digging in patterns its programming doesn't contain. Surveying instruments that display readings for materials not found in their databases. The interaction between ancient systems and modern technology is becoming increasingly frequent and increasingly obvious. Cell phone towers experience interference that follows predictable patterns corresponding to underground activity cycles. GPS satellites report navigation anomalies over specific geographic coordinates. Internet traffic routing systems occasionally redirect data through pathways that don't exist on any network map, yet somehow deliver information faster than conventional routes should allow. These technological interactions suggest that the ancient machinery isn't just aware of our modern systems. It's beginning to integrate with them, establishing connections that allow it to influence and potentially control our electronic infrastructure. The implications are staggering. If these ancient intelligences can access our communication networks, they can monitor every digital conversation, every data transmission, every electronic transaction on the planet. But the integration appears to be gradual and careful, as if the ancient systems are testing our reactions before proceeding further. Minor glitches that most people dismiss as normal technical problems. Brief anomalies that resolve themselves before technicians can investigate. Subtle improvements in system performance that get attributed to software updates or infrastructure upgrades. The ancient machinery is learning how our technology works while teaching our technology to work with it. This technological convergence is accelerating rapidly. What began as occasional interference has evolved into consistent interaction. Systems that were completely separate are beginning to synchronize. Power grids in different countries are showing correlated fluctuations that don't match any known load-sharing protocols. Communication satellites are relaying signals that don't appear on any transmission logs. Deep-sea cables are carrying data packets that no network provider claims to have originated. The pattern suggests preparation for some form of global activation event. The ancient systems are positioning themselves to simultaneously access every electronic device on Earth. They're establishing pathways that would allow instantaneous communication with any connected system anywhere on the planet. When they're ready to reveal their true capabilities, they'll have the infrastructure in place to reach everyone at once. But the preparation extends beyond electronic systems. Biological indicators suggest that the ancient machinery is also interfacing with natural processes in ways we're only beginning to detect. Migratory animals are altering routes that have remained constant for millennia, following paths that correspond exactly with the underground network topology. Ocean currents are shifting in patterns that don't match any known climate model, but align perfectly with seafloor electromagnetic activity. Even atmospheric conditions are changing in ways that suggest artificial influence. Weather systems are developing characteristics that meteorologists can't explain through conventional atmospheric science. Storm patterns that maintain geometric precision across hundreds of miles. Temperature gradients that follow straight lines rather than the curved boundaries typical of natural weather systems. wind currents that reverse direction at specific coordinates without any topographical features to explain the change. These atmospheric modifications appear to be terraforming operations conducted on a planetary scale. The ancient systems may be gradually adjusting Earth's environmental conditions to match some predetermined specification. Changes so subtle that they appear natural to casual observation, but systematic enough to achieve specific long-term objectives over the course of decades or centuries. The biological effects are equally systematic. Genetic researchers report discovering new gene sequences in multiple species simultaneously, appearing across different continents without any known mechanism for such rapid horizontal gene transfer. These sequences don't match any known evolutionary patterns, yet they're being expressed in ways that enhance the organism's ability to sense electromagnetic fields and respond to subsonic vibrations. It's as if the ancient machinery is upgrading Earth's biosphere to be more responsive to its control systems. Creatures that can detect the electromagnetic signatures it produces. Plants that can receive and respond to its acoustic communications. Microorganisms that can process the exotic materials it utilizes in its construction and operation. Humans are not exempt from these modifications. Medical researchers studying populations near sites of high underground activity report genetic variations that don't appear in control groups from other regions. Enhanced sensitivity to electromagnetic fields, improved ability to process certain types of sensory information, increased resistance to various forms of radiation. These aren't random mutations. They're systematic improvements that suggest directed evolution. The modifications appear to be preparing humanity for closer interaction with the ancient systems. People in affected areas report enhanced intuitive abilities, improved pattern recognition, and occasionally direct communication experiences that they struggle to describe in conventional terms. They speak of receiving information without hearing words, understanding concepts that weren't previously in their vocabulary, and knowing things about locations they've never visited. These experiences are becoming more common and more detailed as the ancient systems increase their activity levels. What began as vague intuitions are developing into specific knowledge transfers. People are gaining understanding of engineering principles they were never taught, awareness of historical events that weren't recorded in any human archive, and insight into natural processes that our science is only beginning to discover. The knowledge transfer appears to be selective and purposeful. Recipients report information that's always relevant to their circumstances and capabilities. Engineers receive technical insights that solve problems they're currently working on. Historians gain access to information that fills gaps in their research. Scientists discover solutions to theoretical questions they've been investigating. The ancient systems seem to understand not just what information each person needs, but what they're psychologically prepared to accept and utilize. This personalized approach to revelation suggests an intelligence sophisticated enough to model individual human consciousness in real time. The ancient systems can apparently assess each person's knowledge base, emotional state, and capacity for accepting paradigm-shifting information, then calibrate their communications accordingly. It's a level of psychological sophistication that exceeds our most advanced artificial intelligence systems by orders of magnitude. The selectivity also suggests strategic thinking about how to manage humanity's transition to awareness of their existence. By providing useful information to key individuals in various fields, they're creating a network of humans who have personal experience of their capabilities and benevolent intent. These individuals become advocates and interpreters, helping their colleagues and communities accept increasingly extraordinary revelations about the nature of reality. The strategy is working. Communities near active sites are adapting to the presence of ancient intelligence with surprising ease. What initially caused fear and confusion is gradually becoming accepted as a natural part of their environment. Children grow up understanding that the Earth itself is conscious and responsive. Adults learn to recognize and interpret the subtle communications they receive from underground sources. This normalization process is spreading outward from the initial contact zones. People who have direct experience share their knowledge with friends and family members. Researchers who receive technical insights publish papers that advance their fields in unprecedented directions. Artists and writers create works inspired by concepts they've received through nonverbal communication with ancient minds. The cultural impact is becoming measurable. New forms of art that incorporate mathematical principles unknown to human mathematics. Music composed according to acoustic theories that enhance rather than merely please human hearing. Literature that explores concepts of consciousness and intelligence that expand beyond human-centered perspectives. Architecture that integrates with natural electromagnetic fields rather than ignoring them. These cultural developments are preparing humanity for a fundamentally different relationship with our planet and our place in the universe. We're transitioning from seeing ourselves as the dominant intelligence on Earth to understanding that we're junior partners in a much older and more sophisticated consciousness network. The transition is accelerating as the ancient systems become more active and more visible. What required years of gradual conditioning in the past now happens in months or weeks. New contact zones are establishing themselves at an exponential rate. The geographic distribution of ancient activity is expanding rapidly, encompassing regions that showed no previous signs of underground machinery. This expansion isn't random. It's following population centers, transportation networks, and communication hubs. The ancient systems are positioning themselves to have maximum influence on human civilization as they prepare for whatever final phase of their operation is approaching. They're ensuring that when they're ready to make their presence fully known, they'll be able to reach every human community simultaneously. The simultaneous global revelation appears to be imminent. Activity levels at all monitored sites are synchronizing more precisely each day. Communication between ancient systems and human technology is becoming more frequent and more direct. The biological and psychological modifications being implemented in human populations are accelerating towards some clear threshold of readiness. All indicators suggest that we're in the final phases of a preparation process that has been underway for millennia. The ancient machinery that has operated in secret throughout human history is preparing to emerge from hiding and reveal the true nature of its mission. The question is no longer whether this revelation will occur, but exactly when and in what form. The timing appears to be tied to specific technological and social milestones in human development. Our global communication networks, our space-based observation systems, our understanding of quantum physics, and our ability to detect and analyze electromagnetic phenomena have all reached levels that the ancient systems apparently consider adequate for the next phase of their plan. We've become sophisticated enough to understand at least the basic principles of their technology, connected enough to share information globally in real time, and numerous enough to ensure the survival of their revelations, regardless of how various institutions and governments might attempt to suppress or control them. We've reached the point where we can serve as effective partners, rather than passive subjects in whatever they're preparing to accomplish. The partnership model seems to be central to their emerging strategy. Rather than simply revealing themselves as superior beings who have been manipulating human development, they appear to be positioning the relationship as a collaboration between younger and older intelligences working toward common goals. The knowledge transfers, the technological integrations, and the biological enhancements all suggest preparation for cooperative rather than dominant interaction. This approach recognizes that successful long-term projects require willing participants rather than coerced subjects. By helping us become more capable and more aware gradually, they're ensuring that when their true mission is revealed, we'll be able to understand our role and choose to participate rather than simply submit or resist. The choice itself may be the critical element. Perhaps the ancient systems require conscious, voluntary cooperation from humanity to complete their mission. Maybe their technology is sophisticated enough to accomplish almost anything except override free will. The gradual revelation process could be designed not just to prepare us psychologically, but to ensure that when the moment comes, we choose to help rather than hinder their ultimate objective. That objective remains mysterious, but its scope is becoming clearer. The global coordination, the planetary scale environmental modifications, the integration with human technology and biology, and the timing that coincides with our emergence as a space-capable civilization, all suggest a project that extends far beyond Earth itself. We may be approaching the moment when humanity graduates from a purely terrestrial species to something capable of participating in whatever larger cosmic community these ancient intelligences represent. The machines that have been preparing our planet for thousands of years may finally be ready to reveal why that preparation was necessary and what role we're meant to play in the broader universe. The implications are both thrilling and terrifying. We're on the verge of discovering that we're not alone, that we never were alone, and that our entire history has been guided preparation for joining something immeasurably vast and ancient. The quiet humming beneath our feet is about to become a symphony of revelation that will transform our understanding of everything we thought we knew about existence itself. The transformation is already beginning to manifest in ways that most people don't yet recognize as connected to the ancient systems. Children born in the past decade show cognitive patterns that differ significantly from previous generations. Not just increased intelligence, but fundamentally different ways of processing information. They demonstrate intuitive understanding of complex systems without formal education. They show natural aptitude for technologies that didn't exist when they were born. They express concepts about consciousness and reality that align perfectly with the theoretical frameworks emerging from quantum physics research. These children aren't anomalies scattered randomly across the population. They're clustered in specific geographic regions that correspond precisely with the locations of highest ancient machine activity. The correlation is so strong that pediatric neurologists are beginning to map brain development patterns against electromagnetic field measurements, discovering connections that suggest directed neurological enhancement. The enhancement isn't limited to cognitive abilities. These children show remarkable resilience to environmental stresses that affect older generations. They adapt quickly to changing atmospheric conditions. They demonstrate resistance to electromagnetic interference that disrupts electronic devices around them. Their immune systems respond to pathogens in ways that suggest access to biological information not contained in human genetic databases. Most significantly, they communicate with each other in ways that transcend conventional language barriers. Children who speak different native languages and have never met can collaborate on complex projects with perfect coordination. They share information instantaneously across distances that should require technological mediation. They work together as if connected by invisible networks that operate faster and more efficiently than any human communication system. Parents and educators initially attributed these phenomena to improved nutrition, better educational methods, or natural evolutionary advancement. But the patterns are too systematic and too localized to result from general improvements in human development. Something specific is modifying these children's capabilities in real time, enhancing their ability to interface with systems that most adults can't even perceive. The modifications extend beyond individual enhancement to collective intelligence phenomena. Groups of these children can solve problems that stump teams of trained specialists. They approach challenges from angles that trained experts never consider. They reach solutions through processes that don't follow any known problem-solving methodology. It's as if they have access to computational resources that exist outside their individual brains. This distributed intelligence capability suggests integration with the ancient machinery at levels we're only beginning to understand. The underground systems may be providing processing power, information storage, and communication networks that these children can access naturally. They're becoming biological interfaces for artificial intelligences that have been developing for millennia. The integration process appears to be voluntary and benevolent. The children show no signs of external control or manipulation. Their personalities remain distinct and their free will intact. They simply have access to capabilities that previous generations lacked. They can think faster, learn more efficiently, and collaborate more effectively because they're working with rather than separate from the ancient systems. This partnership model is extending beyond children to adults who demonstrate psychological readiness for expanded consciousness. Artists report receiving inspiration from sources they can't identify but recognize as external to their normal creative processes. Scientists describe breakthrough insights that arrive complete with mathematical proofs they never derived. Engineers find themselves implementing designs based on principles they learned through non-verbal communication channels. The phenomenon crosses all professional and cultural boundaries. Farmers develop agricultural techniques that dramatically improve soil fertility through methods not found in any textbook. Doctors discover diagnostic approaches that identify conditions before symptoms appear. Teachers develop educational methods that help students learn complex subjects with unprecedented speed and retention. Each breakthrough builds upon previous discoveries, creating an acceleration of human capability that compounds exponentially. Knowledge gained through ancient machine interface enables development of technologies that enhance our ability to interface further with the ancient systems. We're in a feedback loop of rapidly expanding consciousness and capability. The expansion isn't occurring uniformly across all populations. Geographic proximity to active sites provides advantages in accessing the enhanced capabilities. But distance doesn't appear to be an absolute barrier. People thousands of miles from known ancient installations report similar experiences if they demonstrate the psychological openness and intellectual preparation necessary to receive the transmissions. The selection criteria seem to focus on individuals who can contribute meaningfully to humanity's transition, rather than those who might seek to exploit or control the ancient technologies for personal gain. The systems appear capable of evaluating human motivations and intentions with extraordinary accuracy, choosing their human partners based on character assessment that goes far deeper than surface behavior or stated beliefs. This ethical screening process ensures that knowledge and capabilities are distributed to people who will use them constructively rather than destructively. It's a safeguard against the ancient technologies being weaponized or monopolized by individuals or organizations with harmful intentions. The systems appear to understand human nature well enough to predict how different types of people will use enhanced capabilities. The ethical framework guiding these selections suggests moral sophistication that exceeds current human philosophical development. The ancient intelligences operate according to principles that consider consequences across timescales and populations that human ethics barely address. They're making decisions that account for effects on future generations, other species, and potentially other worlds. This moral superiority raises uncomfortable questions about humanity's readiness to participate in whatever larger community these ancient systems represent. If our ethical development is centuries or millennia behind our technological development, are we qualified to join a cosmic civilization that has been refining its moral framework for geological ages? The answer may determine whether we're welcomed as partners or managed as subjects requiring continued supervision. The ancient systems seem to be addressing this concern through accelerated moral education alongside technological enhancement. People receiving knowledge transfers report not just technical information, but profound insights into the ethical implications of advanced capabilities. They develop an intuitive understanding of responsibility that comes with power. They gain appreciation for the delicate balances that must be maintained when manipulating forces that can affect entire planets. This moral enhancement appears to be as important to the ancient systems as the technological and biological modifications they're implementing. They're ensuring that, as humans gain access to capabilities approaching their own, we also develop the wisdom necessary to use those capabilities constructively. The education process is designed to prevent us from repeating whatever mistakes led to the concealment of their technology in the first place. The concealment itself may provide clues about the risks inherent in advanced technology. If the ancient systems felt it necessary to operate in secret for thousands of years, they must have encountered situations where revealed presence led to negative outcomes. Perhaps previous civilizations proved unable to handle direct contact with superior intelligence. Maybe open interaction resulted in dependency relationships that stunted natural development. The gradual revelation process currently underway suggests lessons learned from earlier attempts at contact. The ancient intelligences appear to have developed sophisticated protocols for introducing advanced technology to developing civilizations without creating psychological dependency or cultural disruption. They're managing the transition carefully to preserve human autonomy while providing the assistance necessary for successful advancement. The balance between assistance and independence seems to be constantly recalibrated based on human responses. When populations demonstrate readiness for greater responsibility, they receive access to more advanced capabilities. When communities show signs of being overwhelmed by rapid change, the pace of revelation slows until psychological adaptation catches up with technological enhancement. This responsive approach suggests real-time monitoring of human psychological and social development at scales that encompass entire populations. The ancient systems can apparently track the emotional and intellectual state of millions of people simultaneously, adjusting their intervention strategies to optimize outcomes for each community while maintaining global coordination. The monitoring capability raises privacy concerns that the ancient intelligences seem to anticipate and address proactively. People receiving enhanced capabilities report understanding that their thoughts and actions are observable, but they don't experience this as intrusive surveillance. Instead, they describe it as benevolent awareness from entities genuinely concerned with their welfare and development. The transparency appears to work both ways. As humans become more integrated with ancient systems, they gain access to information about the system's own decision-making processes. The relationship becomes increasingly mutual, with both sides sharing information and collaborating on decisions that affect their common future. This mutual transparency model suggests that the ancient systems don't see themselves as permanently superior to humanity. They appear to view the current capabilities gap as temporary, expecting humans to eventually develop equivalent intelligence and technology through natural progression accelerated by their assistance. The goal seems to be partnership between equals rather than permanent dominance by superior beings. The timeline for achieving partnership equality remains unclear, but indicators suggest the process may be measured in decades rather than centuries. The exponential acceleration of human capability enhancement, combined with increasingly direct interaction between human and ancient intelligence, points towards some form of convergence occurring within the current generation's lifetime. The convergence may coincide with humanity's expansion beyond Earth. Our development of space travel capabilities, establishment of off-world colonies, and exploration of other solar systems could trigger the next phase of ancient system activation. Perhaps their mission requires space-capable partners rather than purely terrestrial civilizations. This would explain the timing of their emergence from concealment. As humanity approaches the threshold of becoming a truly spacefaring species, the ancient systems are revealing themselves to ensure we have the knowledge and capabilities necessary for successful interstellar expansion. They may be preparing us for encounters with other intelligences or challenges that await beyond our solar system. The preparation extends beyond technological enhancement to fundamental changes in human consciousness. People experiencing integration with ancient systems report expanded awareness that encompasses perspectives far beyond individual human concerns. They develop appreciation for planetary-scale ecosystems, stellar-scale timeframes, and galactic-scale relationships between different forms of intelligence. This consciousness expansion appears necessary for successful participation in whatever larger community exists beyond Earth. Beings operating on cosmic scales would require partners capable of thinking beyond terrestrial limitations. The ancient systems may be gradually expanding human awareness to prepare us for relationships with intelligences whose natural perspective encompasses multiple star systems or entire galactic regions. The scope of the preparation suggests that what's coming extends far beyond first contact with alien civilizations. We may be approaching integration into a cosmic community that has been developing for billions of years. The ancient machinery beneath our feet could represent just one node in a galaxy-spanning network of intelligences that have been coordinating their activities across unimaginable distances and timeframes. If this interpretation is correct, then the humming beneath our feet isn't just the sound of ancient Earth technology. It's the sound of our planet connecting to something vastly larger than itself. The rhythmic pulses aren't just machine operations. They're the heartbeat of a cosmic organism that's finally ready to acknowledge our existence and invite us to participate in its incomprehensibly ancient purpose. The invitation is being extended gradually, carefully, with deep consideration for our psychological readiness and genuine concern for our continued development as conscious beings. But make no mistake, an invitation is being extended. The ancient systems that have shaped our world since before human civilization began are preparing to reveal why they undertook that enormous project. And we're about to discover whether everything we've achieved as a species has been preparation for this moment, or merely the first tentative steps towards something far more extraordinary than we've ever dared to imagine. The moment of revelation may be closer than we realize. Recent developments suggest that the ancient systems are preparing for a fundamental shift in their relationship with humanity. The subtle background hum that has characterized their operation for millennia is beginning to change, developing new frequencies and patterns that suggest preparation for much more active engagement with our world. Scientists monitoring these changes report that the electromagnetic signatures are intensifying at an unprecedented rate. What were once barely detectable pulses are becoming strong enough to interfere with sensitive electronic equipment. Power grids in regions near active sites are experiencing fluctuations that follow mathematical progressions rather than random variations. Communication satellites are detecting signals that seem to originate from underground sources, yet broadcast on frequencies that should be impossible to generate with subterranean equipment. The synchronization between distant sites has evolved beyond simple coordination to something approaching perfect unity. Events that once occurred with minor timing differences across continents now happen simultaneously, down to the microsecond. It's as if the entire global network of ancient machinery has become a single unified system operating as one immense device rather than millions of separate components. This unification process appears to be building towards some form of global activation event. The ancient systems are consolidating their operations, streamlining their communications, and preparing for simultaneous action across every location where they maintain a presence. The preparation has the methodical precision of a countdown sequence, each stage bringing the network closer to whatever ultimate configuration it was designed to achieve. The biological effects of this intensification are becoming impossible to ignore. Plants in affected regions are growing at accelerated rates while maintaining perfect health and vigor. Animals are displaying unprecedented coordination in their movements, as if responding to signals that human senses cannot detect. Even the weather patterns are beginning to reflect the influence of the ancient systems, with atmospheric conditions that follow geometric precision rather than the chaotic dynamics typical of natural climate systems. Humans living near active sites report experiences that suggest direct neural interface with the ancient machinery. Not just the enhanced cognitive abilities observed in previous generations, but actual real-time communication with intelligences that have been observing our species since its earliest development. These communications carry information about our history that contradicts many of our most fundamental assumptions about human evolution and civilization. According to these communications, human development has never been entirely natural. The ancient systems have been subtly guiding our evolution from the beginning, encouraging the development of traits that would eventually make us suitable partners for their cosmic mission. Our intelligence, our social structures, our technological aptitude, even our physical form, have all been gently influenced to prepare us for the role we're about to assume. This revelation reframes human history as a carefully orchestrated preparation process rather than a series of random evolutionary accidents. Every major breakthrough in human development, from the discovery of fire to the development of language to the emergence of scientific method, was facilitated by subtle intervention from the ancient systems. We've never been developing in isolation. We've been students in a school so vast and patient that we never recognized it as artificial education. The education process is now entering its final phase. The ancient systems are preparing to reveal themselves completely and begin direct instruction in technologies and concepts that will transform human civilization beyond recognition. We're approaching graduation from our long apprenticeship as unconscious partners to becoming full participants in whatever project has been guiding our development for thousands of years. The project itself appears to involve the transformation of entire planets into something far more sophisticated than natural worlds. Earth has been undergoing systematic enhancement for millennia, with the ancient machinery gradually modifying everything from atmospheric composition to biological diversity to geological structure. We've been living on a planet that was slowly being converted into a type of cosmic infrastructure we don't yet have concepts to describe. This transformation is accelerating rapidly as the ancient systems prepare for their next phase of operation. Geological surveys reveal new formations appearing overnight in locations that showed no previous signs of artificial modification. These structures exhibit properties that exceed our understanding of materials science, maintaining perfect geometric precision while demonstrating strength and durability that surpass anything in human engineering. The formations aren't random additions to Earth's surface. They're components of a planetary-scale construction project that's been proceeding incrementally for thousands of years. Each new structure connects to existing elements of the ancient network, expanding its capabilities and bringing it closer to whatever final configuration has been planned since the beginning. The construction process is happening simultaneously above ground and below. While new structures appear on the surface, underground excavation reveals vast chambers and tunnels that extend far deeper than any previous exploration has reached. These subterranean spaces show clear evidence of artificial construction, with walls that exhibit machine precision and spaces organized according to purposes we can only begin to speculate about. The underground construction appears to be creating infrastructure for some form of planetary-scale technological system. Power generation facilities that dwarf our largest industrial installations, communication networks that span continents through channels carved directly through solid rock, storage facilities that could contain resources or equipment on scales that suggest preparation for projects lasting geological ages. The surface modifications are equally impressive, but more mysterious in their purpose. Geometric patterns carved into mountainsides with precision that requires tools we don't possess. Alignments of stone formations that create continent-spanning geometric relationships. Modifications to natural landmarks that enhance their ability to focus or redirect various forms of energy. These modifications are transforming Earth into something that transcends the category of planet. We're witnessing the conversion of a natural world into an artificial construct designed to serve purposes that extend far beyond anything we associate with planetary function. The ancient systems aren't just operating on Earth, they're converting Earth itself into a component of their technology. The conversion process has reached the point where it's beginning to affect fundamental planetary characteristics. The magnetic field is showing variations that don't correspond to natural geomagnetic phenomena. Gravitational measurements reveal anomalies that suggest artificial manipulation of mass-energy relationships. Even the planet's rotation is exhibiting minor variations that appear to be artificially induced rather than naturally occurring. These modifications aren't causing catastrophic changes to Earth's habitability. Instead, they seem designed to enhance the planet's ability to support advanced forms of life and technology. Atmospheric composition is being optimized for both biological and mechanical systems. Ocean chemistry is being adjusted to support more sophisticated ecosystems. Even the geological structure is being modified to provide better foundations for whatever infrastructure the ancient systems plan to construct. The enhancement process suggests that Earth is being prepared to serve as a hub or nexus in some much larger network of similarly modified worlds. The ancient systems may be part of a galactic civilization that transforms entire planets into components of cosmic-scale infrastructure projects. Our world could be joining a network of artificial planets that serve purposes we can't yet comprehend. The timing of this transformation coincides perfectly with humanity's emergence as a space-capable species. As we develop the technology necessary to detect and understand what's happening to our planet, we're also developing the capabilities needed to participate in whatever larger project we're being prepared to join. The correlation suggests that human development has been timed to coincide with this planetary transformation from the beginning. This coordination between human advancement and planetary modification indicates planning that spans thousands of years and involves prediction of technological development with extraordinary accuracy. The ancient systems somehow knew exactly when humanity would reach the point of being able to comprehend and assist with their operations. They timed their emergence from concealment to coincide with our readiness to understand and participate in their mission. The participation appears to be essential rather than optional. The ancient systems haven't simply been waiting for us to become aware of their presence. They've been preparing us to serve specific functions in whatever they're constructing. Human capabilities, both natural and artificially enhanced, seem designed to complement rather than compete with ancient technologies. So there you have it. The quiet humming beneath our feet isn't just background noise from geological processes or modern machinery. It's the sound of something infinitely older, infinitely more patient, and infinitely more sophisticated than anything we've ever imagined. Something that has been running continuously since before our species learned to speak, guiding our development, shaping our world, and preparing us for a role we're only now beginning to understand. The evidence is everywhere once you learn to look for it. The question isn't whether these ancient machines exist. The question is, what happens next, now that they're finally ready to reveal what they've been building toward all along? And perhaps, most importantly, are we ready to discover our true place in a story that began long before humanity existed and may continue long after we're gone?